Hey everybody, this is Gray over at Wakizashi's Teahouse in Japan. How are you doing? I hope you're good. I hope you're Genki. At last, I've got Pops back on the show. Good to see you, Pops. How are you doing?
Oh, it's been too long, brother. It's always great to hang out with you. Hail to all of you out there. Thanks for watching and talking nerdy with us. So yeah, looking forward to it.
I love catching up with you. I love finding out what you've been reading, what have you been up to.
Mm.
So, first of all, let's talk about that, Pops. Has anything good or really good caught your eye recently, like since we last spoke?
Okay, so I assume you mostly mean new stuff. So we'll start with new stuff. Obviously, Iceman #2 has landed. Obviously, Conan #1 has landed.
Yes.
I've heard, and I saw your review on a couple of things. I haven't read those yet, so there's a few more of the newer things. And I'll echo what I said. I think we talked about it last time we were together, but I also think that I've said it at other places. DC really dropped the ball because they were getting someone like me enjoying and recommending some of the Dawn of DC, like jumping in points, and then they stopped everything for this Night Terror nonsense. And I have not read a single word of it. It could be the greatest thing ever, and until you all read it and tell me that it's good, I'm not reading it. I just don't want. So I've been backwards. I've been reading some old Daredevil Volume 2, the old Bendis run. I hadn't read it. I had never read it like in order from the beginning, like
Ooh,
straight through.
nice.
So I'm through like 5 years of it or 6 years of it or something like I shoot like 60s. I'm in that pretty well. And this is very generic street level comic book stuff. It's not him fighting all the time. Like there, it's a lot about court stuff and relationship stuff, things like this. A lot more of.
How is it? How does it compare to the recent stuff from Zdarsky?
Well, again, I'm not totally caught up on Zdarsky, so I figured, well, I'm gonna go back to my roots. I mean, I know the OG stuff, right? So that's my nuts and bolts. Millar, Nocenti, and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
And then
the
Bendis
Senti.
stuff was up and down. I jump around, and so I said, well, let me do that. So I don't want to be dogging on Zdarsky. I'm fine with what I've been enjoying. There's good story arcs, bad story arcs. I really tell you that when you have this much time, you almost can see red flags for what they were, but they weren't red flags at the time. For instance, he does have a lot of woke moments, like woman-splaining just out of the blue. Just out of the blue, Black Widow just starts lecturing him basically about being a man, and you're like, what is happening? And then it just goes back to normal, like nothing ever happened. The characters don't acknowledge it. The story's never impacted. It's just some random rant from some woman. It's very strange. He's done that like twice. And then there's just a radical change. And this is not as much Bendis as it is David Mack, who created Echo. But Echo was created in a very interesting character, kind of like a Taskmaster character. She was pretty. Her and Matt were kind of like flirty and stuff like that. And then it changes on a dime later on when she starts coming back. And it becomes more like he draws her and she's like this. She's Native American, but they immerse themselves in all of that. But then they change her design, so her features and stuff. It's to me. I know this is not what people want to hear, but that's not a chick that Matt would be with. Matt is he's a hot guy, right? The whole point of Matt is he's always going through ladies. It's part of the jokes and stuff like that. So
Pops, I've never read the character. I'm only familiar with her through that. Oh my goodness, can't remember. Was she in the Hawkeye series, the Disney Plus Hawkeye? Yeah,
it was awful.
So she was good there when she first came into the comics. She was interesting.
The original introduction is a 5-part story where Kingpin goes to get her help against Daredevil, but she's meeting and spending time with Matt. So when she finds out that Matt is Daredevil, it kind of collapses everything she believes. She realized that she's been duped by the Kingpin. But then you got to fast forward like 20 something issues. It's like 18 months before she shows up again. And then there's like some changes. And then she shows up again and it's like radical changes. So the character that we're going to get in November for this show is just going to be this, in my opinion, based on what we saw in Hawkeye, a continuation of this nasty, off-putting, arrogant. It's just all the stereotypes and tropes. Because that's Bendis's character. They're going to say it's in the comics. Yep. But it wasn't in the very, very beginning, but it definitely got that way. So, but I'm enjoying the run. I'm enjoying all of that. I read a lot of things sort of like haphazardly. I'm going to reread. I mentioned Superman Red Sun because I'm going to reread that again. I hadn't read that for a while. People are recommending things, stuff like that, but it's mostly older stuff.
Okay, no, it's good to hear. Good to hear, something that you're excited about or something interesting, and it's always interesting to compare, the older stuff to
Mm.
the modern stuff. Definitely, I need to reread Red Sun, Pops. Yeah, that takes me back. It's been a while.
I think I want to do a quick review, like a little 5 minute or something, 5 to 7 minute one. But then I think I want to do a whole stream on it. I want to do a whole panel discussion on it because it is so. There are panels in issue number 1 where Mark Millar is telling you, you know, this is this, this is this, this is this. He is. I hate to say it, Gray. Is he the great? He may be, his legacy may be, he may be the greatest modern comic book creator's legacy when this is all said and done. When you start adding up these type of projects and things like that, and I know the mainstream folks don't care for all this indie stuff he does. They hate it. Let's face it. It's very toxic. It's action driven. They don't like any of that. But when you start to list, if we're going to list, let's say that these best, that list is going to be very, very impressive. List is going to be very impressive.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think most people even know, how many things he's done and how, how important or how good, how well received they were, especially the earlier stuff, Pops.
Yeah, agree more. I think it's from the people I think know of, like the Ultimates, Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
They know about Invincible. They'll know about certain things that he may be tied to, or he's known about with the companies that he's with or things like that, right? Because he's over there working where Kirkman is when he creates Invincible, and now he's doing his own thing with because kind of like, I think he was motivated by that, and I think now that he's got his own line of these comics that are just kind of like that, in that vein of, all right, let me go further. Let's, we see things like Invincible and Boys change the landscape, and just kind of throws a shade over all of his work, and you don't hear about it. So I think it's what we're going to see, and this era is going to be remembered differently for Millar and Kirkman for sure.
Do you know when I first came across his name? This is going back years and years. I first saw Mark Millar's name. He was writing Swamp Thing, co-writing it with Grant Morrison. When he first started writing Swamp Thing, it was Grant Morrison and him, maybe the first arc or the first 2 arcs, and then it was just him. And I wasn't buying 2000 AD at that time. I think he'd already done work there. He'd worked his way up and got his foot in the door in America, so as they say. But yeah, it was Swamp Thing, and I can't even remember that run. It's a long, long time ago.
I think the story goes that he met Grant Morrison for an interview or something, right? Because I think he met Alan Moore and Grant Morrison, and that's how he got his foot in the door.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know all those details. Someone in chat right now is Googling and will fact check me, but I'm pretty sure he either met them to do an interview, or because he met them, it got him. Anyway, so it was through those connections with Grant and Alan Moore that got him in the door.
It might even have been at a Comic Con in the UK.
Maybe. Back in the day, that's how it was
Scottish
done.
one. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. That's cool. And speaking of Mark Millar, have you read the first issue of Big Game?
No, you know how I am. I can't. I don't know. I want to read it. Then I'm like, I don't want to wait for the second. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think when the second one drops, then I'll do both. You know what I mean? I don't.
Yeah.
I know I'm fickle, people, where I could, I seem so hypocritical because I'll do this random. I think it's because I'm not emotionally attached. And I know that if I read a Shazam comic or a Spider-Man comic, I'm like, yeah, whatever. But with Millar, I know it's going to be good. Even when it's not great, it's really good.
It's still good. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
His bottom... It's like me. It's like when I'm doing my Batman animated series rewatches. I'm doing these videos every week. It's like the bottom of Batman animated series is still above almost everything else. It's just like, it's crazy.
Absolutely. Okay, well, speaking of being excited about characters or being really invested, who stands out for you? You can talk about anybody, old series or new. Who do you get excited about when you read?
So obviously right now, I've become a child on the inside thanks to you, because I've been reading Gunslinger Spawn. It's by far the book that I look forward to the most, because Brad Booth's art, it's McFarlane. McFarlane has a very simple story style. He's not going to be real complicated. It's very easy for me to follow. I can have a good time, flip through some books. Because of that and connections to you and other folks that are out there like Angry Canadian and others, I'm enjoying reading the old stuff too. So I'll go back and I'll read. I thought I haven't done reviews. I've read through like the first 10 or 15 McFarlane Spider-Man books again, and I'm getting ready to go back and maybe reread the Amazing Spider-Man ones again. Anything with his name on it is sort of a legacy thing. Obviously, anything with Frank, I'm a Frank Miller child. Like, I wouldn't even be here if it wasn't for Miller's work. Stuff with Frank, I've enjoyed going back and recently did a comic book talk with Danny, Cosmetic and Comics. We talked about the Dark Knight 3, Part 3. I said, I'm not doing Part 2, so we can just pretend Part 2 does not exist to me. I hate Part 2. I don't like Part 2. I like Part 3 is okay for what it is. I don't like Part 2. So yes, things like that I still get excited for. I just get excited for trying to find books and stories that I think people will enjoy. It's like I just did my review recently, a little while ago, on Predator Big Game, which I think may be one of the best Predator comic book stories because it's so rich. The human side is really done well. The human side pretty much doesn't matter. We're not there for the humans. We're there to watch predators. We're there to watch things get blood splatter and chaos, and that's what we're there for. It delivers all that. But it also delivers a good story and good human side. So things like that is what I'm enjoying doing and trying to find. Actually, I just got my son turned on to like the comic book versions of the Timothy Zahn books, so Heir to the Empire and all of that.
Oh,
so
no way. Yeah.
I'm really excited that he's going to, hopefully he'll read them. I sent him everything he would need to catch up. So it'd be kind of cool to see my son kind of get a little nerdier in that arena.
I didn't even know they'd done comic book adaptations of those. Was that was that Marvel or was it somebody else?
No. This is Dark Horse era. They are beautiful covers. It's similar to like I have the Dark Empire book right there. Right?
You can see
Dave Dorman covers. So you may get it down. I can get it down. Here, I can show you. I showed it here recently and someone else asked me about it.
Awesome. Yeah. Love to see it. I've only read the books and I've listened to the audio versions as well, Pops. So good. What a great story.
So, yeah, Dark Empire was part of for those of you who don't remember the Star Wars history, like once Jedi was over, fast forward a decade, and we really didn't have any Star Wars. So it was like the books and the comics sort of revitalized. And I have never like bought books day one like I did for those Timothy Zahn books. And I was waiting for the Wednesday when these dropped. So this was Dark Empire.
Okay. Awesome.
And this is sort of like after Jedi. So, and actually I had multiple copies of this. This was actually mine. So I've actually had this since the 90s and got it graded for posterity's sakes.
I'm trying to remember. Is Dark Empire, is that after Heir to the Empire trilogy? Is that the second
one?
So
this is the interesting part because it's sort of like everything is happening. You could read either one, I think, and take them as the sequel. I don't remember the timeline of which one would come first. I think Dark Empire probably would come first.
Okay.
With all that said, I'm not a big fan of Cam Kennedy's art on the inside. So Cam
Kennedy,
and I...
Wow, that takes me back, that name.
He does the same thing these modern guys do. You know how I love pastel colors, Gray, and there's a lot of pastel colors, and there's a lot of panels with not a lot of facial features, and it breaks the motif. But it was the Luke that we all wanted in the new movies. It's the Luke that shows up. He's got the cloak on. There's like the planet's being invaded, and he just does the Force thing, and the Star Destroyer just collapses. It was like. Yes, that's what we all want, and it's like, that's not what we got in those movies, but that's what we wanted. So
no, we had to get Ray doing it, didn't we, instead?
And I think Mike Barron, I think you're familiar with Mike Barron's work, right? So Mike Barron's a great writer. I think he helped adapt some of the Heir to the Empire books. I think it was the second set and the third set, because obviously Heir to the Empire is the first one. I'm 99% sure he did part of it.
That's good. Hey, that's cool. I love these talks because we go on tangents, don't we? Things come up that we weren't expecting. But yeah, what I was going to talk about, one of the things as well, perhaps before we go on the main topic, is I wanted to ask you how much you know about a Canadian superhero team called Alpha Flight, because this week A new issue 1 came out. It's going to be a mini series. It's been written by Ed Brisson, whose work I've been enjoying on, what is it, Batman Incorporated and Stormwatch. He's been doing stuff on those. But yeah, for me it's a new character, a new series of characters, because I don't know them. I only know the name Alpha Flight.
Oh, okay.
Canadian superheroes, yeah.
Yeah, they date back to the beginning, like, and even sort of an overlap a little bit with sort of like that Canadian Department H stuff that was in part of Wolverine's original origin.
Right.
So, yeah, if you're not real familiar with the original stuff, yeah, it was some good stuff. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert, but I did like John Byrne, right? So,
yeah,
you know, when I like something like that, I'm like, oh, well, let me give it a run. Now, I will not pretend that I'm going to, because I have not read any of that for a while. Their characters, they're just sort of like extra mutant characters. There's nothing I think that has become like impactful or part of the overarching Marvel universe or anything like that. But you have all of these characters that you're going to recognize because they've been in other stuff. You know the history of like North Star, who'd become the first openly gay character.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, Sasquatch is like this iconic, you know, sort of like Hulk experimentation beast creature thing. So there's tons of fun stuff to play with and look at. Puck is a famous, you know, dwarf character that jumps around with acrobatic skills and those kinds of things. So I'm not familiar with the new story. I wouldn't rule out giving it a go if it's you like Ed Brisson. So why do I know he's done something recently?
I dropped a review today, and it's done quite well. You know, for me, for my channel, it's people seem to be looking for reviews of it. So, but I didn't think it was going to be a very big title. But I think it's more the nostalgia, isn't it? Perhaps like, you know, people like us who grew up when the original was out. It's like, oh wow, there's a new Alpha Flight. Is there? I wonder what that's like. But yeah, decent writer. The art's good too. Okay, nice one. So that was that's the one review I've done this week. Otherwise, I'm not going to do a review. I thought maybe we can do a live reaction, but first of all, I want to share an article, Pops, if that's okay. We were talking before we started recording. Who is Spider-Boy? Does anybody know? Does anybody care? It seems that Marvel care because they're pushing this character. They're launching a brand new solo series this fall. It's going to be written by Dan Slott, your favorite Spider-Man writer, is that right?
I can't stand. So look, here's the thing, guys. I really don't even know anything. So I only know two things about Dan Slott, really. One, I had asked a question before I even was really doing content or whatever. I was doing nothing, but he evidently will block you on Twitter if you just like people he doesn't like. That was very much a turnoff to me, who was really kind of getting my wheels going into all of this. And I had asked a question about something. It was very generic and benign, and it was like blocked. So he and Ron Mars are on the top of that list, like that.
From what I've heard, Pops, they're like automatic. They work somehow.
Yeah, they just look at what you do, and this
AI thing that does it. It's a blockchain. So if you've liked somebody's content, they don't like, boom, you're gone.
And all I have to do is log out, and I can see their Twitter feed. It's just they're like man children that are also like not the smartest kids at the table. Just so we're completely clear, Dan, you're not really hurting me. Just so you know, if I had time or energy, if this was a full-time job, I probably would do, you know, Twitter reaction videos like so many other people do. But that said, Dan Slott's other thing is he's like this. He was part of this documentary that Disney did trying to promote the Marvel way. And it was sort of like this fat, slobbish, he's always late, very cavalier about everything. And I was just like so turned off by all that. So when you told me about this Spider-Boy thing, and I'm looking at some of the design stuff, and I'm like, oh, no. Yeah.
What, you're saying you don't like this design? Look at this. Come on, Pops. It's very colourful.
Oh, my gosh. I can't stand this, like... this obsession with like these child characters. I mean, obviously I've always been vocal about how much I can't stand Miles. I hate Miles. I hate most of these new characters because they're like these off-putting children in this generation. They're everything that's wrong with this generational They're giving this generation a bad name, and it's these kids that think they know everything and they're nasty and they're mean. And so when I see something like this, I'm like, it looks like and feels like it's going to be more of the same from Dan Slott. Basically, is what I feel like it's going to be before I even know anything.
Okay, let's have a quick look at this article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, just highlights from it, but this is back in April. It was talking about the Dan Slott solo Spider-Man series issue 7, where Spider-Boy made his first appearance. It was co-created by Slott and Humberto Ramos, the artist. Okay, just go down a little bit. Here we go. So it says, who is Spider-Boy? It reveals that his name is Bailey. It confirms Spider-Boy is from Earth 616, not somewhere else in the multiverse. After returning, Spider-Boy grew frustrated with no one else remembering him, saying he's had countless adventures with Peter and Miles Morales, implying that he made some kind of sacrifice for them. So that's how they set him up. Perhaps that was his first appearance back in Spider-Man issue 7 in April this year.
Wow. I'm going to send you a link in the private chat here, so you can share it with everybody of the design of this character under the mask. I was like, what? So, yeah, no, I don't, it's not going to be my thing, Gray. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to be a big Bailey Briggs. And it's sort of like he's just been shoehorned into this history that has existed that we have never seen. So it's like, oh yeah, he's learned martial arts from Daredevil. And oh, he's done this and he's done that. And you're like, what are you talking about? Like, what?
Bailey Briggs, there we go. At least we get his family name as well, Earth 616.
Yep. Oh yeah,
that's it. Okay, because he makes an appearance, pops in the latest issue of that Dan Slott Spider-Man series, which let's double check. I think it is issue 11. Is that right? Yeah, issue 11. But it also says legacy number 167. So are they counting from like the Todd McFarlane, that original Spider-Man series that they made specially to keep Todd at Marvel back in the day?
I don't know.
No idea.
All I'm going to do is say, you should pull it back up again. You didn't share the biggest photo. Go back. You have to share the photo. You got to share the photo that made my head just hurt when I saw the Bailey Briggs picture. Yeah, you got to go back because you're still just showing the Spider-Boy in costume. That's not the gold. That's not the gold. You got to go further. Go down more. No, keep going. More. Where? No, how come your page is different than mine? I sent you the link. That was weird. Marvel fandom.
Let's see what happens.
All right, let me try this.
How's this one?
All right. Yeah, there he is. For the love of freaking Pete.
What is wrong with this character, Bobs?
I don't see myself in that character. I don't see myself as what looks like an 8-year-old redheaded boy with some sort of weird teeth. Okay.
You could argue we're not the target audience, though. Maybe this is being geared for, trying to get children into reading American comic books because we keep hearing they're not reading them anymore. They're reading manga or they're playing games.
Yeah. Or you just release Adventures of Spider-Man with Peter Parker stories of being like the first year of Spider-Man. But that's just me trying to make money and
Peter
not
Parker.
trying to do some sort of nonsense like this. So, but he has extra eyes. He has these extra teeth. Yeah. So no, thanks. So is he the new Miss Marvel for them? Is that what you're trying to hint at here? He could be kind of like the new thing.
I don't know. Let me share this article here. This is from the end of June. So talking about these solo series coming up. What was I going to say? It begins in November with Spider-Boy issue 1. They're also bringing out a brand new Superior Spider-Man series, which Dan Slott is also writing, as far as I know. And there's going to be a new Spider-Woman series. So we've got three brand new Marvel-based Spider-Man titles being pushed to come out in the autumn. Do you think this is a reaction to how poorly Amazing Spider-Man's doing at the moment and how much fan backlash there is for it?
I wish I could say that it was that strategic or anything like that. I just think that they just let Dan. I don't understand why they let Dan do all of this. Like, Dan is slow, doesn't make deadlines. It's like very haphazardly done. It's like this shoehorn creator story of a character that has been around allegedly, and then we're going to get another Spider-Man story that he's going to write, and it's like, I don't know. I don't know who the editors are. We looked it up before we started, and the name is not someone that I recognize. So I don't know what to do. I can't imagine having something as big as Spider-Man in my business model and not having a better plan that fans would engage with. Like, if you want to market towards children, that's fine. This is the marketing plan for that. This is the marketing plan and the story arc for Spider-Man. But they're doing something with Mary Jane too. They're giving her a character. She's becoming a hero too.
Yeah.
You see that design?
The wonderful name of Jackpot. There we go. I think that's coming out in the fall as well. Let's have a quick look at what Dan Slott had to say about Spider-Boy. Here we go. Spider-Man is not supposed to have a sidekick. It's wrong on so many levels. That is exactly why we're going to have so much fun with this, says Dan Slott. Both the character, the new title, are going to break all the rules. Bailey Briggs is going to have over-the-top adventures in the Spider-Man corner of Marvel Universe. There we go.
We have all said, and I'm not alone. I've echoed the same thing. I think I've heard Gary say this at Nerdrotic and many others. Morales should have just been Peter's sidekick, and we wouldn't be in this mess that we're in, where there's all this animosity. You wouldn't have to have all this complexity. You would have just had the crazy Secret War mess that you did. You brought Miles into the 616, which is horrible, but that's what you did. And he's co-Spider. He's like Spider. Come up with a cool name, And now we end up with like this Spider universe with all these different things where Spider Gwen and now Mary Jane and now whatever Bailey Briggs is supposed to be with this genetic mutation, little redheaded. This looks like a kid that the Goonies would beat up. Like, why am I supposed to take this kid? I don't. Dan Slott, you have a clue on. I don't know. I know some people love Dan Slott's Spider-Man run. I'm not getting into it. I just can't. And you guys get ahead of me on these Spider-Man reviews and always basically warn me off before I even try. Because I have tried a couple times. And then I see these $9.99. It's a wedding, but not a wedding. I'm like, oh, I'm not reading that crap. I'm just not doing it. Even Eric, he duped me with Hulk. And I read issue number 2. And my video was, why is there no Hulk in my Hulk book?
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm like, what the heck?
And
I'm messaging Eric O'Sullivan, for those of you at home, Reverend Sully. And I'm like, Eric, what is going on? He's like, right? And I'm like, you got me into this mess.
I quite enjoyed it, but I wasn't expecting. No, that's not the right word. I was looking for a Hulk story. It wasn't a Hulk story. It was a horror story. It was more like a Hellboy story. I got those kind of vibes from it. Do you know what I mean?
And it's like this setup in this graphic novel era. Like it's probably going to be fine when there's a whole story. Like you buy the graphic novel and it's going to be 6 to 8 issues and people are going to be like, I can't believe people didn't like this. I'm like, okay, because on the single issue, you're just thrust in the middle of this world and you're like, I feel like I'm watching, you mentioned Hellboy, let's go Marvel, like Ghost Rider or something. Like you feel like you're in that type feel and it's like a Hulk book. You're like, what is happening? Yeah.
It's because
that is the universal problem at Marvel. I can't just jump in. I can't just enjoy it. And then even if I can for a minute, it never lasts more than a few months. There's nothing.
Because of the success of Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing. He went for a more horror-based approach to the Hulk, and now they've gone full-on horror with this. But it's a good writer, Pops. It's Phil Kennedy Johnson doing it, as far as I know. I've got that right. And I've enjoyed his stuff on Action Comics with Superman. Was very good.
I'm not even trying to bag the I think my review, is pretty fair. I wasn't even trying to dog the story.
No.
All the elements of the story. I do think there was a panel or two off. I talk about there being some bad panels. There's a couple panels. Every now and again, I get a bad panel. But I'm like, but I want some Hulk in my Hulk book. Like, there's moments. Nope, no Hulk. I'm like, okay. Again, I think it'll be fine in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, with this whole Spider-Verse stuff they're doing, Dan Slott, whatever. Thanks for warning me. Thanks for catching me up on Bailey Briggs. I was unaware of the importance of Bailey Briggs and how many times he obviously probably has saved the MCU single-handedly. I look forward to them putting him in a what if episode or something like that so Dan can make some money. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, are you ready to be tortured even more, Pops?
Oh, sure. Yeah. For you, Gray.
Let's do
For
it.
you.
Let's do it. Let's do. It's not really going to be a review. Just maybe the first few pages. Get half the comic book. Let's do a live reaction to the brand new issue of Spider-Man, which features Spider-Boy, of course, and we get quite a bit of his supposed origin story in this, Pops. Now, forgive me for putting you into this. You're going in like cold. You've not read it. I was trying to share it with you, but I couldn't work it out. So this is going to be a real live reaction with Pops. Where are we? Let's share. Okay. So on the cover, first of all, we get, as I mentioned before, it's issue 11, legacy number 167. I'm not sure how they work that out, and it's $4.99, Pops. There we go.
$5, huh? That's right.
How's that cover? Anything sticking out or sticking on a web for you?
Yeah, just. And again, I've never been a fan. I don't know when this took off, so maybe somebody out there can let me know. Like, when did it take off? If they wear like. They look like tennis shoes and not boots. It doesn't look like, so it's more like the childish elements of all of this.
This comes into the story, the reason why he wears those.
Oh, for love of Pete. Okay.
Okay, let's go in. Big respect to John Romita Sr., who we talked about in a previous live stream, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We get three pages of paying respects to him.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Wow, look at that. Remember when Peter Parker was marrying Mary Jane?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, had that issue for a long time. It's a very special moment.
Me too. I wish I still had it. Okay, let's get in here. So we open with Peter Parker, Spider-Man, in his weird new design suit, saying that, look, you're not my kid sidekick. You are Spider-Boy no more. Basically, Spider-Boy has been telling Peter that he helped save the world or something, but everyone has forgotten about him. Whatever that is, I don't know why. So, Pops, on this first page, what's like jumping out for you? Anything good?
Anything good? So again, Eric talks about this a lot, right? Like, you just know this is all digitally done. You don't feel like there's actual any pen to paper. It's all just very shiny and glossy feel. It's not awful. It's just not. It doesn't draw me in. It's just sort of like, okay, I'm just in that meh phase right now.
I'm just comparing the designs, even with this weird, slightly new design to Peter Parker's spider suit with the yellow eyes. He's got kind of yellow globs on his arms, and he's got a yellow spider glowing. He still looks so much better than the Spider-Boy costume, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, I cannot stand anything about Spider-Boy yet. I'm hoping that you're going to win me over with this issue. It's gonna make me see myself as this redheaded child, multi-eyed, big-tooth, spandex-wearing savior of the MCU. Yes. Oh, sorry, not MCU, the 616. So.
The 616, that's right. Yeah. Where are we? So, yeah, as I say, he's just basically trying to convince Peter that, I was with you, we did the big thing together. Peter can't remember, blah, blah, blah. And we get Peter asking, what can you do? So he's like, okay, the usual. Super strength, well, spider strength. Super leaping, wall crawling. I can read off objects. My spider sense is different. It doesn't warn me when I'm in danger. It warns me when other people are in danger. And, last one, Pops, I can also monster out.
But I'd rather not.
Rather not.
It's so... The design of the head... and the mask is so off-putting with the weird eyes and the teeth and the fangs and then just like this concept of the spider sense. Why would you have a spider sense that would warn you when other people why does that have anything to do with a spider? Like, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. I know.
Like, you can just feel Ditko roll over in the grave just a little bit. Because Ditko would push back against Stan with these crazy ideas that Stan would have. And he's like, well, that's, Stan, this and this and this. It's like, and you're like, oh, no, it's going to be a spider sense where, I can feel that Gray's in danger. What? Why would you be able to? That makes no sense whatsoever. That's like an X-Men thing. That's not even. All right, on we go.
When the spider's like crawling across the shirt that you were wearing, it can sense. Pops, you know this, like spiders in real life can sense when you if you're in danger by touching your shirt. Anyway, never mind. Let's get the next page.
Well, before we leave that page, that's a giant. Is that supposed to be like a can of Monster that he's crushing there under his fingers? Because that's a big can. It's bigger than his hand and part of his arm.
Oh my goodness, I can't see it for the little stream thing. There we go. Oh yeah, that's a giant can, isn't it?
What the freak is that? It's like this massive can. Like, see, they just do these things, and I'm supposed to ignore them, and I get distracted by the design of the costume and things like the can, and I'm not supposed to. I'm reading too much into it, Pops. I'm like, but the can would be like that big. Like, what is that? Like, what are we doing? And again, I think it's digital. I think they just do it on these things. Maybe it doesn't adapt well. I don't know.
The digital is a big problem with the colouring, isn't it? I find.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
drawing.
This doesn't feel like a comic book to me. I don't know how to explain that exactly. It doesn't feel visceral when I read some of these books, especially Marvel side. DC has problems too, but especially the Marvel side. And I compared these to Gunslinger because I said there's panels in Gunslinger, and I don't know, maybe Booth does digital. I don't know. But there are so many like cross hatchings and stuff on just the revolver.
Right.
It's insane compared to this. So let's get back to Spider-Boy.
Okay, we go on. We get this is Spider-Boy trying to remind Peter Parker what happened. Here we go. The first time we met, Spider-Man rescued him from Madame Monstrosity's lab and took him to be trained by a friend. And guess who it is, of course, and we know it's Daredevil.
It's so off-putting. So again, for those of you who don't know, the homage / ripoff of the panel on the left is Amazing Fantasy, the famous Spider-Man cover. So it's just a homage to that. Then we're bringing Daredevil into this, and you're like, oh no. Which, by the way, is actually drawn well.
Yeah.
He's actually shadowed up, and he actually looks like a vintage Daredevil image. I actually like that pretty well.
How about this?
Daredevil looks pretty good.
To get a joke in as well, listen to this. Spider-Man saying, okay, I know a guy who can help. He's usually up at this time. He can probably see us now. Well, see might be the wrong word.
Oh.
Anyway, let's get on the next page.
Why does Dan... Never mind.
Why does he think he's funny?
No, it's not even funny. It's like, why even... Could you not think of anything... Just why even go there with the C thing? Like, what you obviously caught yourself. It's so like just okay. Then just okay. Cross all that out. He'll know he'll know he's coming. How will he know? You'll find out. Something. Give us something interesting or no. Never mind.
A cheap joke instead, which is he probably thought it was funny at the time.
Probably. All right, I got to go for a bagel.
And that's followed up with Daredevil going, well, let's have a look at him. But he's using his radar sense, of course.
Why are there 6 of him? Because he jumps around so much?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that either. And then Spider-Man's saying, this is Bailey. He's got 8 eyes. He's taking in too much input. It's driving him crazy. Does that sound familiar?
They take the mask off, and then it becomes cringy beyond cringy. Wow.
I was getting flashbacks to The Last Airbender, the cartoon, the animation.
Yeah, but it's so much worse than that.
Much worse.
Airbender makes more sense. This doesn't even make sense. This is like, okay, so the poor kid is like this genetic... I don't understand why Spider-Man's involved. Because this is, again, this is why Dan Slott doesn't need to be doing this. So it's like, okay, so you have this genetic mutation experiment. He has 6 eyes. He has these weird teeth. And he obviously has some Spider-Man connection in his head, but there's something else going on. If he can sense danger in other people, he almost needs to be at Xavier's mansion, not under Daredevil's martial arts school. Like, it doesn't make sense. And how would Daredevil have time to lug around this little kid who looks like a freak? I mean, you can't take this kid anywhere. He's not blending in. He's a mess.
The jokes as well, Pops. It gets worse. Look at this. Daredevil, that middle panel is saying, you can call me Club. reference to Stick, Daredevil's trainer in the past. I just want to check who the artist is. Let me just go back to the credit page. Where are we? It's Luciano Vecchio. Okay, I don't know the name. And then the next page we have...
Oh, he's been on Superboy.
Oh, nice one. Okay.
That's all I remember him being on. He may have been with Dan Slott doing other stuff. I have no idea, but he doesn't... I think he did some Superboy. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyway.
I'm getting almost manga vibes just from the Spider-Boy character himself. Are you? I mean, Daredevil's fine and Spider-Man's okay, but it's the boy's face. It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, everything about it's just... And of course, he's just amazing. He's just going to be amazing. He just grabs the billy club out of the air because he can focus just like that. Took him 10 minutes.
I know. What happened to being overloaded? His senses were overloaded. It was driving him crazy just because he put a blindfold on. What about the other eyes? They're not blindfolded, are they?
They're not blindfolded. The six eyes are good. It's the 2 human eyes that are the problem. So he's more spider than man.
There we go. Okay, we'll just go a few more. I don't want to spend the whole thing doing this, but then we get to see him with hair. Finally, he's got red hair now. And Daredevil seems to be teaching him how to meditate, to feel what is the spider and what is the boy.
Why is Spider-Man sticking around in the hammock?
I don't know, because it's funny. Perhaps, come on. Are you not laughing?
Is it? So, but this is Spider-Man. It's not the adventures of... Again, I'm going to go back to my thesis. Like, this would work better if it was like Adventures of Spider-Boy or something like that. Like, you're going to create this juvenile character... I feel sad for... And by the way, it's never consistent. Like, go... Can you make it... Look at... Okay, maybe you can just see it. But the panel at the bottom on the left, he has his 2 spider buck teeth. But then when he opens his mouth and smiles, there's no weird teeth.
Yeah, I can see that.
And Daredevil's just copy and pasted. They didn't even... He just copied the exact same panel over, and then he just changed the background.
And speaking of backgrounds, Pops, there's a very, very limited background, isn't there, in most of these panels? A couple of lines.
Oh yeah, there's no real details. It's just an embarrassment to the art form. Again, this is a digital crutch thing where they can just do so much easily. It makes it less of a challenge, so they can just kind of get by. And so instead of like having to draw something, with buildings or whatever, come up with something interesting. Let me get a reference of a building. Let me just do some work. Nope. There's nothing there. There's no background there. It's just blue.
Then we jump from here to the next page where he seems to have taken on 2 armies of ninja and henchmen. There's no sense of time passing. You've no idea apart from his hair's a little bit longer maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, so it says, from the classroom to field trips, fighting baddies, but sticking to your basic thugs, ninja, and henchmen. So, not bad, Spidey 2. Okay. So they just, trained him up for a while. They gave him like a quasi-spider mask. Yeah. There's red hairs everywhere. I thought he had a mask earlier. Did he not? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. This is the very beginning of him. Okay, I got it now. Okay. All right.
And we've got Spider-Man calling him partner as well in the second to bottom panel. You may not have trained me, but you did something better. More than anybody else, you looked after me. Thank you. Anytime, partner. And then Daredevil's going.
He's gone. Daredevil's out.
He's gone. Let's get out of here. Okay, just do have a look one more. Again, this page freaks me out. And we get an explanation about the sneakers, his shoes, Pops, because you're dying to know, aren't you, why? We get Spider-Man asking, where is it? Okay, 1, 2, 3, the 4th panel. He's saying, what's with the sneakers? How can you wall crawl with soles that thick?
What the heck is wrong with Peter's left leg?
I know, that's why my eyes drawn straight away.
Like what? I mean, I know you read me the panel and I can read it, but I'm just like, I've been distracted and tuned out the entire time looking at Peter. Peter has like a leg. It's so insanely badly drawn.
It's bendy.
But look how long it is. It's like it's so misproportioned. It's like a Mr. Fantastic leg. It's like it doesn't even make sense. Like we understand what the concept is of him wall crawling, but why on earth Reed Richards made him sneakers?
That's right. You got it. There we go.
Oh, for love of Pete.
Set him up with Spider-Boy gear. It's made of the unstable molecules, so it stretches, it can move, whatever. It's got Mr. Fantastic stretchiness. It can mimic the Human Torch's flame, the Thing's toughness, and Invisible Woman's powers. So he's the Fantastic Four combined into one. Is that all in his sneakers, or just uniform, or what?
Wow. Okay, so the bottom there, because Spider-Man's like, wait a minute, I don't buy that. I'd let you sidekick with me. He's like, it's the child endangerment of it all, isn't it? Like, why would a kid... Oh, Dan Slott is so overrated. Oh, good Lord. Good gosh, Molly.
Can you bear any more parts? Just do another page.
You know what? It's okay. I do torment you from time to time, Gray, on my channel, so I cannot throw stones. I cannot throw stones.
As I say, it's not a proper review. Just wanted to
look how bland it all looks, how generic it all looks.
I know. Can you see this doing well? That's a question. You know, when it gets launched.
No, it's going to fizzle out in a few issues, and someone has convinced them with this era of first appearances and variant covers, and if they just kind of keep feeding this machine, it would keep going, and they don't realize how many times they do that. There's a term the term called leakage, and just, you know, let's say you have 100 people, and then it goes through its cycle. Now you have 98 people. Now you have 94 people. Now you have 88 people before you realize that you have a market share that is like minimal compared to where you started. And I think we're already on that. It's just and then look at the inconsistency. Just go down a couple more pages, because I'm like, I got ahead of you. I couldn't help it. What on earth is with these purple circle things? Like,
oh God, he's in the pinball game for some reason.
I don't even know why I would care. Arcade. Okay. Look at how designed, how different it all is, and just I don't know. This was trash. Oh my gosh, this is just garbage. Marvel,
let's get back to you.
Dan Slott's part of the problem, not part of the solution. Tell him you appreciate the efforts he did. He'll still get his royalty checks from those graphic novels that you'll sell forever from those runs of people who think that his run is worth reading. But pat him on the behind and tell him to go crowdfund and see how well this crap sells, because nope. That's $5 you saved me. So between that and the main Amazing Spider-Man, I've saved $15 this month, my friend. Thank you.
I know, right? Yeah, I do wish they would release the proper sales numbers. It's hard to find. We only get estimates these days, but as far as I know, Pops, believe it or not, Amazing is still number one. It's taken over from Batman because people, you know, weren't happy with Chip Zdarsky's run, especially his second story arc.
Yeah. I was going through a list because I don't have a comic book talk every single week sometimes. So I'm kind of always like got my finger on the feel for like what could something I could talk about or whatever. And one of the things was there was some issues where there's very low print run, and I was kind of on the mindset of just because something is rare doesn't mean that it's worth anything, if that makes sense. So there are some books that have, you know, and I don't mean variant covers. I'm talking about like actual, you know, mainstream comics and things like that. And what's interesting is there are books where there's only like a few thousand copies of them. The Ninja Turtles, it's like, well, yeah, but they're not worth anything. Like, no one wants them. It's like, that's why no one ordered them. So I just thought about doing some sort of video or topic like that where it's going through. I'm sorry, I'm scrolling on my phone looking for my notes, and I can't find them, of course, because I didn't plan this. This was all off the cuff. So
no, you're good.
Yeah, it was an issue. I don't know where it is. I can't find it. I wrote it on my notes, and it was like there's only like 3,500 copies of it or something. And I was like, where? What? Like 3,500 for, you know, like a printer, like it. Again, like not a variant cover. Like that's all people ordered. And I'm like, wow, that's not very many. So yeah. Anyway, no, I don't know. I don't know why this would be something people want. Maybe, like you said, this is supposed to be for little kids, but I think you would market it differently. Like I said, the Adventures of brand has kind of been known to be tied to stuff at children. You try to get that in Walmarts or heaven forbid, you know, roll stuff back out to like 7-Elevens and stuff. But again, not at $5.
Oh,
God,
no.
no one's paying.
No.
No one's giving your kid $5 from this crappy Spider-Boy book. There's no way that's happening. I wonder
Cool.
why
Okay.
McFarlane doesn't try to get his stuff into the retail market better.
I know, because just speaking of sales numbers, I kind of wonder how the Spawn series doing at the moment. I know Gunslinger is the best seller out of the current four Spawn books, but it has slipped down. You know, we're up to like issue, it reached 20, 21, 22 or 23, isn't it, Pops? It's
We're on 23.
going for 2 years almost now, so wow.
Did you see what are your thoughts on the San Diego Comic-Con news of having 5 more Spawn-related titles?
I couldn't believe it. I was surprised. Maybe one more. A She-Spawn might be good, but people have been talking that for a while, but I don't know, because I don't know how well the Scorched is selling, or even King.
Yeah, but they're going
to
dive into, Civil War Gunslinger, which I think is something people have been asking for. They're going to get into some other interesting... it's worth a shot. And listen, we get Sam and Twitch. You know how I look? I actually enjoyed Bendis' Sam and Twitch. I thought those were actually kind of fun. I've enjoyed most of those that I've read, so maybe it can be done well. Sam and Twitch seems like an easy softball, almost like Daredevil, street-level crime type stuff in the middle of this Spawn universe.
Yeah, I like the sound of that too.
There's a great sequence in one of them where they're in the middle of this crime thing or whatever, and then Spawn shows up behind one of them, and because I need to talk to you, and he just goes F off him in the middle of something, and I just laugh so much because I'm like, yeah, he's not fazed by the Spawn universe. He's been in it this whole time. He doesn't have time for you right now. He's doing something. Like, don't. I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome, and that's what Sam and Twitch would be. It'd be that fun show. So, oh brother, Spider-Boy.
I do have some news though, Pops, and this is only rumours. I'm not for sure because I've heard this a few times, but speaking of Gunslinger Spawn, Brett Booth might not be the artist on it from after issue 24, which is the next issue. So I've not heard who's going to be replacing him, but they were saying that a while ago, and he's been going for almost 2 years now. He's still on it. I think he's really enjoying it. He's doing some of the best art of his career, I think.
It's just really, really crazy. McFarlane has said, I think there was a quote, McFarlane said something like, Brett's Gunslinger is way cooler than mine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that even King Spawn or Scorched or whatever, there's still more detail and interesting and background details and all that than the book that we just exposed ourselves to. So the worst of the Spawn universe, in my opinion, as far as art goes, is still superior to the issue of Spider-Boy that we just subject ourselves to. Just so you know.
There we go.
Not always story-wise, but yeah.
We can, if it's okay, we can wrap things up shortly. I've got something I want to recommend to you, something physical and something not new. You probably know this. If you don't know it, I'll be very happy because I recommend something really good. You know Ed Brubaker, don't you? Yeah, Ed Brubaker.
Oh yeah,
Sean
yeah.
Phillips.
I'm familiar with Brubaker's work.
Great series. I'll tell you what I revisited recently. I was rereading The Fade Out, which is their murder mystery set during the 1930s Hollywood. It's the movie industry, and it's a murder. Oh, it's so good, and it got me to like reread this as well. Reckless. This is the first of their only graphic novel that they weren't published as single issues. These are coming out of the graphic novels. They're $24.99 US, and it's gorgeous. It's Sean Phillips, gorgeous art, great writing from Brubaker, as you know. Have you read any of them, Pops? Do you have them?
I don't have Reckless. I only vaguely remember Reckless, so maybe I've just seen it somewhere. I definitely haven't read it.
There's maybe four or even five by now. At least three to four in this series.
I'm very familiar with Brubaker's stuff. I actually did cover, like, a lot of his stuff has gotten picked up and optioned before all this strike stuff happened, so I don't know what will look for him. I need to do some Brubaker stuff and just kind of because there are several. He's a very prolific and skilled writer like Millar. But I don't think he's as flashy. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there for sure. Yeah,
I love this style. It's kind of simple, but it's done by a master. Sean Phillips. I remember him when he first came on Hellblazer, Pops. We're talking absolutely years ago. He was doing.
Yeah, that's something else we should revisit. There's some really good stuff in Hellblazer. Yeah. Awesome. Oh, thanks for sharing. No, that's good stuff. There's a whole Reckless series, right? Is that what I'm seeing
Yeah.
here? Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm seeing because they're not all Reckless. It's like Reckless, Follow Me Down, The Ghost in You, The Friend of the Devil, Destroy All Monsters. Cool. Very cool. So I see
Wow.
5.
That's 5 you've listed there, yeah, because I'm way behind. They are a bit pricey, but it's like you're getting quality for what you buy, absolute quality.
Yeah, but you know what? You can find again. So other than me continuing to looking for a physical copy of Ninja Turtles: Last Ronin, which you cannot find economically less than the $25 to $30 range. Almost everything you can find cheap. Almost everything you can find at a reasonable price by someone at a show or something like that. But every now and again you can't. But no, I can do a Reckless run and try to find. That's kind of fun.
Would you pay $25 for like a new, graphic novel like this? Let's see what the page count is. That's a question. It doesn't say, but it's about, what do you reckon, about 100? Could be 120 pages. I'm guessing.
There's some on eBay that are cheaper. So, no.
Cool.
Yeah, there's one at $13.99, so it's gonna be like $18 after shipping. Yeah, I would shop around a little bit, see where I can get that down to. So I can get that down closer to around a $15 range or something like that.
Yeah,
but if I read
that
it and
sounds good.
enjoy it, and I want it, that's where I like to go. I like to try to, find, and I'm more about like what's the reasonable price. And the reason people, for those of you who haven't asked, why don't I just, bite the bullet and buy it, buy Last Ronin, you like it that much. I said, okay, well, if I'm going to spend more, then I'm going to go all in. I'm going to go for like a signed version or something like that. So that's why I haven't pulled the trigger. If I'm going to buy a cheap reader copy, I'd rather find one at like 10 or 15 bucks that I can destroy. Maybe let my kids handle and the whole nine. If I'm going to get one that's going to be more expensive, then I'm like, well, maybe I should just go like 80 bucks or something, or go for one that's signed. It goes for something that needs to sit on a shelf. And I don't want to say an investment exactly, because I doubt they are. They're sort of like mass produced at that point. But
Yeah.
no, thanks for the recommend. I don't think I've never read that. But,
Okay, cool.
It looks good. I love Brubaker stuff. So Brubaker is actually one of those that I don't talk enough about. I really should probably give him. Because he doesn't write tights and cape stuff really. He writes more like dramatic crime and things like that. So that's not. It's in with Predator. Not as many people are into like Predator and Alien type stuff as we are. Like it's just one of those things where a lot of this stuff, comic books are it's a lot about capes and tights. So
he wrote a really good Daredevil run. We were speaking about Daredevil, weren't we, at the beginning of the show? So yeah, and he did. I haven't read it. He's done Captain America, hasn't he, for a while? I didn't read that though.
Yep.
I love his
I had
criminal
his Captain America.
series,
His Captain America was pretty good.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, he's the co-creator of Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Right, that's right. Of course he is. Okay, so before we finish, Pops, anything you want to shout out or recommend? Final words.
Just find something that you can enjoy. Feel free to reach out and let me know if there's something like I've had a couple people who say, well, I like this character. Let me find something to jump in point. I'm going to do some reviews on some of those jumping in points. A lot of the thumbnails will just say good stuff, ? I'm going to do Emerald Dawn, which is Green Lantern, which is sort of like my Green Lantern, because that's the one that was in that, before then I went backwards and read Neil Adams and stuff like that, but I went forward with the series. So things like that are like jumping in points and things like that. Try to do that with some of the stuff in Rebirth and things like that. Have reviews. I don't know when this drops to know what is out there, but I've done Batman Black Mirror, which I think is fantastic. It's the last it's the last 10 issues of Detective Comics before New 52. Scott Snyder's start on Batman. It's a tremendous story. Very, very high recommend.
I think that might be his best Batman work. I know it's controversial to say that. It could be a hot take, but I think it could be his best Batman.
I think it's
and it was Dick Grayson, wasn't it? It was when Dick was Batman.
It really makes you like Dick Grayson Batman. Because on the surface you're kind of like, but it really makes you like Dick Grayson Batman. And in the story they talk about him not being the same as Batman. There's a great moment, and it's kind of a spoiler, but not really. He's there with Gordon, and you know how when Gordon, he does those things where he looks away talking or something, he turns around and Batman's gone, and he does it and Batman didn't move, and he's like, oh, I'm just not used to you still being there. Like it's just it was so well done, and I'm like, See, that's the subtlety that has us fans really happy. But because I enjoyed that on my reread, I want to reread The Court of Owls so I can kind of really gauge those two for Snyder, so I can really be fair, because I haven't read Court of Owls in a minute, and probably do a video on this. So that's kind of what I'm going to do, is kind of keep diving down into that well and allow the new comics to come to me and see what I should or shouldn't do. So yeah, as far as this, that's a lot of where I'm at on it. I'd probably continue my Daredevil read through and maybe try to dabble with some other recommends and stuff I've had over the last year or so.
Cool. Yeah. Well, finally, speaking of Sean Phillips, and I saw you commented on my video, Pops. I do recommend that the Enfield Gang Massacre, that Western that came out, and it's illustrated by Sean's son, Jacob Phillips. Really good, written by Chris Condon. So yeah, that's definitely worth a look.
That's on my to-do list. That's on my top of the to-do list, because you'll definitely see that video. I'll definitely do that, because I'm all about that kind of. Yeah.
Oh, good.
You're not the only person that liked it too. I think I commented on Wes's video. I didn't want to listen to a lot of what you guys had to say, but I just wanted to know, oh, you guys are that high in. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah,
I'm like that. I'll check it. Yeah, check this. The usual suspects. Like, okay, he said it's good. Right, I'm going to go and get one.
Yeah, let's go check it out. Yeah.
Well, Pops, as always, thank you for joining me. I know you're busy time. I hope you're having a good summer, and I'm looking forward to doing more comic book talk with you. But it doesn't have to just be comic books. We can talk about anything. But yeah, great catching up. Thanks so much for joining me.
Always, anytime, brother. Take care. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we'll see you on Wakizashi's Teahouse next time, and don't forget. I mean, come on, you must be subscribed to Pop's channel, but if you're not, the link's in the description. Please do subscribe and check out his content. And yeah, we'll see you in a future video.